Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's Mishek's Custom Baits. Rick Mishek here. I see we're wearing my jacket still here inside. It's They keep the temperature here about 70 degrees, and the older you get, the higher your preferred temperature range gets. Mine mine's about 74 now during this time of year. Most days, I prefer it that temperature, but um, right now it's 70 degrees in here, so I'm a little chilly, so I wear a jacket. Okay, let's go ahead and continue the discussion on knowing bass. This is part 3 of chapter 6. Um, Once bass find a warm water source, such as the discharge from a power plant, you can move those fish, relocate them, and they will return to that same area over and over and over and over. Okay, I don't know how they know where it's at. I mean, because what if it's a great big lake? How do they know where that's at? How do they know how to find it again? Well, maybe knowing how they do it isn't nearly as important as knowing that they can and do those things. Okay, maybe that's the important part. Um, Science hasn't really told us how they do that yet. Um, Bass don't know if, say, the next cove over has water temperature more to their preferred liking or not. Um, they can only find that by moving around. Um, Bass in big reservoirs that feed mostly on shad, they will follow those schools of shad, even if the shad move into water temperatures that the bass aren't all that comfortable in. They would prefer to be warmer waters, but well, guess what? Here's the food. Okay, so that's what they will follow those schools of shad. And they do the same thing with other prey species like minnows, dace, shiners, uh, and small perch. Um, Bass compete for resources. Okay, um, that competition and infighting is pretty common among bass. I did not know that they do that. Well, not least not until I read the book. Um, but that infighting and competition, it isn't just for, like, say, a good place to ambush prey, but it's also for temperature ranges. Um, the larger, more socially dominant fish will take the choicest spots and force less dominant fish into less desirable habitats. And the same thing is true with the juveniles. In fact, juveniles can be forced into outright hostile and lethal environments, which, well, we know that the bass can lay thousands and thousands of eggs, and just a very tiny percentage of them actually make it to adulthood. And that's probably just another reason why, not just predation or disease or whatever, um, but the fact that they don't get to go to environments um, that are sustainable for them. I found that actually kind of surprising. Um, Very little research has been done on how bass regulate pH balance in their environment. What we do know is that bass will avoid waters below 7.0. If waters higher on the pH balance are available, they will avoid those acidic waters, uh, and they prefer. What we know so far is that they prefer pH balance from at least 7.4 to 8.1. We don't really know anything about above the 8.1 because nobody's done any research on that. Maybe that'll change in the future. But for now, we can safely say that bass have 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 very little preference for pH as long as it's at least moderately basic, that 7.4 to 8.1. As long as we're within that range on the pH balance, bass are good with it so far. I mean, they might go higher, but Maybe we'll find that out in the future. Maybe we won't. As winter approaches, bass start to change. Their metabolism will slow down. They don't feed as often. But down to about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, the changes aren't really noticeable to us. But below, say from 50 to 60 degrees, bass become noticeably sluggish, and their feeding has slowed down quite a bit. About 45 degrees, they start to congregate to migrate to deeper water, and below or about 40 degrees, bass become essentially dormant. When they do eat at temperatures that cold, it can take a whole month, to digest one meal, right? I think this is a pretty good explanation for why fishermen can see big schools of bass down on the bottom, and they're having a heck of a time catching even like 2 or 3 fish out of this great big school. It's because, well, probably everybody else is still trying to digest their last meal, and you just have a few fish that are actually willing to eat something because they have digested the meal. So as fishermen, we have to make adjustments, not just through spring, summer, and fall, but also in the winter. We have to adjust our techniques. Probably jigging is a good way, you know. Anything with a nice slow presentation, because the fish aren't going to chase them, not when they're that cold. They're not going to chase your lures very far at all. You probably have to just about put it right in front of their faces so they'll eat it, because they just don't have the energy to chase food. So we have one more episode for chapter 4, and it'll be a little bit longer than today's was. It's just that this is a good spot to stop. So next week we'll finish up chapter 6 and then start chapter 7. But if you liked what you saw today, you learned something from it, hit the like button if you would, please. And if you haven't subscribed already, would you please do so? Both of those things help the channel out tremendously. And share. If you found value in it, maybe you could share it on social media. Share it with your friends, your family, whatever. That helps the channel as well. Until next time, folks, tight lines, calm waters, and God bless.